Because actually, I've always agreed with what you just said earlier. Like, I've always said, even though the French scene has a history of like lazy players or people who aren't motivated, people like you, NBK, you actually kind of are like the outliers in that sense. You've always been trying, practicing, working on your individual game, thinking about it. So being as this year, like you said before, if you've played in massive lands, you've won majors, it's never going to be that cool to like try and win an online tournament. Like, it's just not, unfortunately. It's just the nature of the scene. So how have you managed to handle it? Like, have you never had moments this year when you've questioned your motivation, or what happens if we got 3 more months of this? Have you been able to hold up okay?
I never like had motivation problems. The only thing I have is like tiredness problem, because sometimes I'm too tired because we just doing too many tournaments in a row, and it's always the same. You need to practice, you need to prepare for the games, you need to play individually, you need to play those games that are really hard mentally. So that's not about motivations. I always been motivated, and I'll always be, and I'm always happy to play that game. I'm just paid to play a game I love. And when I'm doing something I love, I just doing my best. So it will always be like that. But yeah, sometimes it's more about being tired. I feel like the more age I have, worse it is. In the sense that when we're doing too many tournaments in a row, like my brain starts to just be too tired, and I just need some time. So that during that period, maybe sometimes I just need more personal time. So sometimes I play a bit less and I'm watching a bit less Counter-Strike, but it's just because if I do it, I will be like too tired after all. So I prefer doing that way, playing maybe a bit less than before, but trying to focus more on all the things.
Right, being as your team is actually in a similar position to Moses's, which is if they have an online tournament, odds are your team's going to be in the final or deep in the tournament. So if the format means there's a lot of games, you're going to play a lot of games each time. Like, where do you come down on? Obviously, there's been all this complaining about like people have been burned out, or people hate the fact that like, so, I mean, it's a real thing. Sometimes one tournament, their match ends at 1 a.m., but then the next tournament wants you to play at 11 a.m. or something crazy, or 12 or 2 p.m. or sometime quite after it. There was the classic number, obviously. So this has been there's extreme examples of it, but as a general point, has there been too much Counter-Strike, apEX? Like, are you like? Obviously, you have one of the roles that involves the most preparation. Like, is it wearing on you how many tournaments there is and how few days off there are?
I think, as mentioned before, I think it's not about the amount of tournaments; it's the schedule we have. Like, for example, let's talk about ESL One Cologne or EPL. Like, it takes too much time, to be honest. Like this 3-week group stage, Cologne was 2 weeks. So if we will have the same amount of tournaments, but the same schedule we have on LAN, will be okay, because we will have this day off that we can take to just think about ourselves, do practice as well. Because let's be honest, we've been practicing at the beginning of, I'm talking about before the summer break. We've been trying to practice at the beginning of March when I became the game leader, and then we had almost no time to practice. So we were still playing on the game we did before, and we were lacking so many things. So that's why you say in France we just try to like put things together and trying to do the best of those, because it's not easy to. Because obviously we'll say, hey, let's practice. We have like one day off before the tournament.
Yes.
But let's be honest, sometimes we need some day off. We need
to take a break, of course.
Just need a break for your brain and just like get some good weather and just enjoy your life. And that would make the thing really hard right now. It's not. There is obviously too much Counter-Strike
to event. Yeah.
Exactly, to event. And it's just too much. And I think we need way less of those. And if it's the thing, it's all right for me. I know I have no problem playing a lot of Counter-Strike because I love it, but right now it's not a lot. It's too much.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think it's just the schedule, and I mean part of this is a little bit screwy because of COVID and all the events that were delayed, and now they're all moved to this end of the year at the same time, which is an unusual situation. But it is with the extension where what was it? It was Cologne, and then like the next week was Pro League, but there's an event coming up where it ends, and 2 days later the next one begins, and that's the crazy stuff. That's the insanity where it's like, okay, we just got done with this week of where we're we're practicing and prepping for matches, playing our matches and playing matches every other day for like a week or two. And then we have like one day off, and then the next event begins, right there. And that's where it gets to be too much. And like you said, I don't think the number of matches is the issue. It is just the lack of ability to have any kind of time off, like the lack of be able to say, all right, guys, you have 4 days off. Go like take an extended weekend. Go drive somewhere like 3 hours away and go, I don't know, we probably can't really do a whole lot of that right now anyways, but just the fact that you could get away for 3 days and just step back from it and be able to come back refreshed is a pretty rough one.
That's quite brutal what he says about practice, though, because if you anything, that's one of the things people would have thought being at home would change, right? Is now people are going to have time to do what you always wanted, basically have time to level your game up, retool it. Well, sounds like you barely get any time, though, because the next tournament's starting, right?
Yeah, there's that. I think there's also a couple complications, and this one might be unique to North America. I don't know so much in Europe, but just the number of quality teams we have to practice against. And listen, I'm not going to make that an excuse, because I think even playing against lower tier teams, if you're disciplined enough as a team, you can find ways to improve. So it's not a perfect excuse. But, when you are playing against the same teams in tournaments and practice, like the same 8 teams are in every North American tournament for the last 5-6 months, and now you're practicing against these teams as well, and you do kind of hit a wall of how much new shit you're going to be able to experience and new shit you're going to be able to see, and you do kind of get a little bit fatigued because everything feels a bit more repetitive. And also, if you're trying something new or if you're changing things around, you don't want to practice it against the best teams that you're going to be playing in the next 3 events as well. I know we have a current issue.
I have an idea.
We have a current issue right now with an event coming up. Well, I mean, I'll just say it was for New York, where we didn't even get the groups in North America because so many teams have made roster changes. A couple teams have pulled out last minute. Like, we just got our group information, I think, last Thursday of what group we're in. And, by that point, you've already set up scrims and practices for that week and for the next week.
With teams in the group.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, well, now I have to cancel 4 scrims, and now I have to go try and find 4 new ones for these days. So, I mean, we were supposed to have some practices today and some scrims, but I had to cancel a few because the team we signed up with was in our group. So now there's just no scrims today. So you have to find a new way to actually practice and improve, which is fine. But there's just a lot of really small, stupid inconveniences that make it a bit rough and just put up more obstacles than there need be, I guess is the best way to put it.
For you guys, it's true. It's even worse because in Europe, at least, we have so many teams to play against. There are a lot of teams to play. But I have an idea. Just play in Valorant.
Reasonable.
Yeah. Listen, if they want to pay us a Counter-Strike salary and the Valorant salaries that are going around, I'm more than willing to compete in 2 games. Let's sign me up. I mean, the nice thing about Europe, I noticed, because I actually find it way more fun when I watch demos to go find the quote unquote tier 2 teams over in Europe, is I think European teams, especially as you get deeper away from the top teams, the top teams do this as well, but they have a way better understanding, obviously, than North American tier 2 teams about teamwork. So I think a lot of them very much understand I don't have the stars and the skills that an Astralis has or that a Vitality has, so I'm going to make up for it by just playing really strong fundamental Counter-Strike, a really good team Counter-Strike, or I'm going to have a lot of gimmicky strats here and there, and they make up for that in other ways. That doesn't happen so much in North America. So, I mean, I'll be honest, most of the inspiration I find from watching matches and watching demos is from some of the upstart European teams that are the second tier, and all of a sudden in this online phase, they're competing with the tier 1 teams. And I find it really cool to watch some of the ways and some of the tactics and setups that they're bringing to the table. I think there's some really cool stuff like that, and that's why you can go so deep in Europe to find some efficient practice, because maybe you're not getting the team who's going to blow you out of the water with skill, but you're facing a challenge of a team that tactically might be playing these rounds better than you, or tactically may have some things that you've never seen and you need to learn how to react to, and you don't get that. Those are the kind of aspects that we miss out in practice in North America, unless you're playing Furia, because they're psychopaths.